Thank you, Victor. Thank you for the great graphic. And this is May the 4th. And what's your favorite greeting, Victor?
My favorite what?
Your favorite greeting for today?
Oh, let's see. Not Star Trek. But maybe Star Wars?
May the 4th be with you.
And also with you.
Well, the title of my talk today is The Seventh Demon, or The Dark Side of the Fourth. We're going to talk today about an individual called Milarepa. Milarepa was a saint in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. He actually did exist. And yet there were many stories about Milarepa that were probably legends or myths, as there are about many great saints. And in this particular story, Milarepa was a hermit, which he was in much of his life. He lived on the side of a mountain, and often he would go for long walks. He would be away for many hours and sometimes many days. And one day when he returned from a long walk, he came back home and discovered that his home had been broken into, and it was inhabited by 7 demons. And they were having a real party. They were eating his food. They were tearing up his furniture, making a mess out of his house, having a grand old time. When Milarepa saw this, he immediately said, "Be gone. This is my home. You do not belong here. This is where I live." 3 of the 7 demons left. So I'd like to use this story as kind of a metaphor for the demons, quote unquote, demons that sometimes visit us in our life experience. The demons of various types of afflictions that we as human beings encounter. The painful, difficult things in our life. Some are relatively minor, some are much more difficult. So the first 3 demons that disappeared upon command represent those kind of afflictions or experiences that are painful, difficult, but we're able to dispel if we're mindful. These kind of experiences where they happen perhaps every day or once a week or whatever, but it's, losing your car keys or having a fender bender or getting a parking ticket or, getting sick or stubbing your toe, et cetera, et cetera. We all know them. They are part of the little demons that can intrude in our life. Yet if we're not mindful, they can live there for quite a while. So the command of Milarepa demonstrates to us one way that we can dispel these demons is dropping our story, saying, "This is not who I am. This is not the truth." When somebody cuts us off in the freeway, you know what happens. We bless them right away, right? How sweet of you. Thank you for that. No, we don't. But if we catch ourselves, we can take a deep breath and say, no, I'm not going to go there. Is that? And so it is with so many other things that we can endure them relatively easily if we learn to avoid the story and not get caught up in the habituated, ain't it awful, or whatever our story may be. So some of these demons are able to be exorcised with a command. And that command is not just willpower, but it's a clear statement of, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to play this story again. I'm going to let this go. Take a deep breath. Come home to my body. This is where I live. This is who I am. So that's what Milarepa did with the first three demons. But there were four that didn't leave. So he tried it again. The four still remained. Going to have to come up with a new tactic. Well, the second set of demons left only when Milarepa said, all right, mi casa su casa. You can have my house. You can have everything I own. Have a party. Have all the food. You know, there's beer in the fridge, football game on the TV, popcorn in the microwave. Make yourself at home. So these are the experiences that are more difficult. We can't will them away. We can't command them to go away. They don't go away even if we choose not to think about them because they're more painful, they're deeper. These are the things like, a divorce or the death of someone close to us or a major economic loss. Those things that happen to just about all of us at one time or another, they're pretty much inevitable in human life, yet they're very difficult nonetheless. So these demons cease to haunt us when we're willing and able to just allow, to accept. This is part of life. This hurts. That's all there is to it. Welcome. I'm a human being. This is part of what it means to be a human being. Let's see. We don't need to create a story. We don't need to cling to the story or push it away, but simply say, this is part of life as a human being on this planet. And when that happens, the pain doesn't necessarily go away, but much of our suffering will. Because the suffering is not the same as pain. Suffering arises when we resist our pain. When we tell ourselves, this shouldn't be happening. Those are the deadly words. And notice whenever you feel yourself suffering, notice and you'll see that those words are present. This should not be happening. This is broken, it's wrong. It's not supposed to be here. So pain is pain, but suffering becomes suffering when we resist it, when we call it wrong, when we say the universe is broken. If I'm willing to let go of my beliefs of right and wrong, if I'm willing to let go of my beliefs of how life should be, if I'm willing to let go of control or the need to understand, that's a tough one sometimes. Because very often when a challenge, a painful experience arises, the first question that comes to our mind is, why? Why did this happen? Why now? Why me? Particularly with those things that are unexpected, unbidden, sudden. Why? You know. And of course, there's no answer to that other than this is part of my life right here, right now. It's not all of who I am, but it's my experience in this moment. And my experience is not who I am, yet it's something I need to be present to. That's a thing. We're responsible to our experiences, not necessarily for them. We didn't necessarily cause them, but we need to respond to them wisely and compassionately. Otherwise, suffering will perpetuate. The seventh demon, that's the one you see in the picture here. Represents those lifelong, you might call them karmic issues, those issues that not only occur in our life, but seem to be part of our life. They seem to be embedded in our identity. Over the years of sitting retreats and managing retreats and leading retreats, it's very interesting how we see that the issues that show up for us time and time again seem to be pretty much the same. Sometimes I'll look back at some of my old journal entries, 20, 30 years ago. And in many ways, it's saying the same thing. You know, the same dance, they say, with different partners, different dance floor, but it's the same music. So these afflictions, if you want to call them that, are deep and are part of who we are. Offering everything he owned did not get rid of this demon. He said, you can have it all. I surrender. Demon just laughed at him. So then Milarepa did something very strange. He went up to the demon. He asked the demon to open his mouth. And then he stuck his head in the demon's mouth. Yuck. What's the last thing I want to do? Stick my head in this. But when he did, the last demon disappeared. And these are the issues, if you want to call them issues, that are part of who we are. And it would seem the only way to subdue them is to surrender our entire sense of who we are, our identity. The only way to subdue this demon is to realize that I'm not who I thought I was. It can feel like dying. Because what is death other than letting go of everything that I think I am, right? It's not a physical death. It's a death of what's not real. Yet it's a death of something we are very, very closely identified with. That's a great paradox. Examples might be physical or mental disabilities, chronic anxiety, chronic depression, maybe addictions, lifelong addictions, or abuse, either as an abuser or a victim of abuse, chronic illness, chronic pain, compulsive behavior, antisocial behavior, and the list goes on and on. But you know what I mean, I think. And we know those folks, and most of us are one of those folks, where we say, this is here because this is who they are. But it doesn't mean that we're a victim of it. It doesn't mean that we cannot exorcise this demon. But it takes everything we've got and then some. To stick our head in that demon's mouth is not easy. And sometimes the demon's breath is pretty bad. It's not a fun place to be. And yet, that's what makes the demon disappear. And so the paradox is that that which makes the demons disappear makes the suffering disappear. So the least desirable thing, the thing that we resist the most, ultimately is what makes the suffering go away. And again, the condition doesn't always change, and it may, sometimes it does. The condition does change. But even if it doesn't, the suffering changes, and that makes all the difference in the world. It means to be willing to release not only our beliefs, but also oneself, to let go of one's identity, let go of our sense of reality even. A German theologian, Paul Tillich, defined a term, or created a term, I should say, coined a term, he called the ground of being. And each of us has a ground of being as humans. That ground of being is this. Tillich said, if you had to give up everything you know, everything you have, relationship, possession, et cetera, if you had to give it all up except for one thing, what would be that one thing? What is the last thing you'd be willing to give up? You know, it might be our mind, our ability to understand. It might be relationships, you know, our family, our spouse. It might be our sense of who I am, why I'm here, a belief. But for each of us, there's a sort of a bottom line. I will not let go of this. I'll let go of everything else. But I stop here. And then Tillich says, what would it be like to give that up? So that's what we're talking about here, is when we let go of that which is unletgoable, or whatever the word is, that we refuse to let go of, that sticks to our skin, you know. I want to let go of it, but it sticks to my skin. Pulls my face off when I let go of it. I want to close with this quote from Karl Friedrich Graf Durkheim. who is a German, of course. He's a Zen master from the early part of the last century. And he writes this, and it's in non-inclusive language, so I'm going to read it twice. But this is what Durkheim writes. He says, the man who being really on the way, and in the Zen practice, the Dharma practice is often called the way, the Tao, the way, the Dharma. The man who really being on the way falls upon hard times in the world will not turn to that friend who offers him refuge and comfort and encourages his old self to survive. Rather, he will seek out someone who will help him to risk himself so that he may endure the suffering and pass courageously through it. Only to the extent that a man exposes himself over and over again to annihilation can that which is indestructible arise from within him. Only to the extent that a woman exposes herself over and over again to annihilation can that which is indestructible arise within her. You see, when we surrender everything, we feel like we've been destroyed. But there's something that remains. What is it that remains? That which remains is that which cannot be destroyed. That which is indestructible. When we're willing to be annihilated, we discover that which is indestructible. When we discover that which is indestructible, we become free from all fear. When we become free from all fear, then we are free to truly love. Then we can truly love. Thank you for sharing your Dharma practice with us. May all beings be free.